In a minute, if you can make sure that all your phones are turned off, so we don't hear the background. We'll be right in a minute. All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order with a roll call. First, Commissioner Schlosser will not be on the call today. Commissioner Byrne?
Present.
Commissioner Gay?
Here.
Commissioner Schwazanowski?
Here.
Commissioner Sheffer?
Here.
Commissioner Kaluzzi?
Here.
And the chair is here. I'm going to briefly just go over a couple things that heard from a governor's call this morning, as well as his press conference this afternoon. Then turn it over to the city manager, a couple of comments, and then open it up to the commissioners. And probably, my thought is to open it up probably to Carol Everhart, just to hear from her perspective, just a updated report on the businesses. I got a little bit of one yesterday from a call with the chamber people, but would like all the commissioners to hear it. First off, unfortunately, we heard yesterday, as I'm sure most of you probably know by now, that the District of Columbia put Delaware on their quarantine list. And I think their list is a total of 27 states, somewhat similar to what New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut has done, and Pennsylvania had done in the past, but Pennsylvania did not put us back on. Basically saying that if you've traveled to Delaware and then you come back to DC, you have to quarantine for 14 days. What's interesting about this is DC exempted both Maryland and Virginia from these quarantine lists. I guess that's probably because Maryland and Virginia are part of their group that they've been working with the last 3 or 4 months. And apparently, I believe both Maryland and Virginia show numbers similar to ours or a touch worse from the perspective of what these states are looking at. And just as a reminder on what they're looking at two numbers. Number one being the percent positive of tests, and then number two, the new positive cases per 100,000 population. For the last 14 days or so, Delaware has been below 5%, which is the WHO number. So that's not what they're looking at. They're looking at, from the governor's perspective, the new positive cases per 100,000. And as far as Delaware's population is concerned, probably need around 97 cases on a daily basis average per 100,000 to be within their numbers. And our numbers for the last 14 days have averaged about 103 or 104. So we're not far away from that 97, but we are not in the right range for these people to take us off their quarantine lists. The hospitalizations in Delaware continue to go down as average, although the last few days the numbers have popped up a bit. But on average, over the last 14 days, it is down a bit. One of the things the governor mentioned today is that it seems like around the state, more and more people have gotten complacent with the wearing of masks or not wearing masks. And he's pushing hard on us as communities, as well as the businesses around the state, to please, push with people to the need for masks, the need for social distancing. And he is implying that the state is going to increase their enforcement with businesses being non-compliant and probably start giving out more fines, more citations around the state. Basically, they're still doing a lot of testing in Sussex County as well as throughout Delaware. He still feels we need to get the numbers down. His focus today and probably for the next couple of weeks is going to be on the opening of schools. And, basically the way he looks at opening schools which is basically his phase 3, is looking at a 7-day average of below 3% positive and below 94 per 100,000. And that's his feeling about being able to open up schools and suggest that schools go back. But that's a ways off, and he feels like we have to continue to push on the masks as well as social distancing across the board. And what that has to do with us is the school opening is really his phase 3. And I would think that as he gets to a comfortable space for opening the schools, he'll start to focus on phase 3 for the restaurants, for the retail shops, as far as opening inside, possibly phase 2 of the bars, but I don't know that that's coming anytime soon. But that would also be a function of those numbers to maybe get the playgrounds open as well. Those are a number of things that municipalities were asking around the state today. And that's pretty much so all he had to say. He was pretty disappointed about the placement on DC's list. And again, as I said, DC, I think their numbers are spiking. I know they're higher than that 5%, but I think they're just wanting to be careful about possible cases coming back to DC. And DC's quarantine list is going to be checked every 2 weeks, whereas the other quarantine lists of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut are every 7 days. And I did not hear anything today, and so I'm assuming we're still on those quarantine lists with those states, and the governor did not say anything about that. With that, I will turn it over to the city manager for reports around town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I just have a very brief report regarding parking. We did a comparison of parking revenue last year for the past weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and this year, I'm sorry, last week, not last year. So last week, there's a slight, very slight increase between last week and this past Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's minimal. It's at $1,676. Same for parking permits. There was a slight increase in parking permits, daily permits, and revenue collected. So there's really nothing to report on that end. As far as last night, meterless Monday, I'd say that I haven't specifically heard anything, certainly nothing negative, but the businesses seem to put out some information yesterday on the call at the chamber that it was much appreciated. And with that, I'll ask Chief Banks to update you on the lifeguard situation.
Hi, thank you, Sharon, and good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners and general public. Lifeguards, we have the entire 17 total lifeguards throughout the season have tested positive for COVID. And currently there are 2 of them that are out. Okay, and one just got tested positive last week. That was tested last week, came back positive, and the other one is set to come back this weekend. So we'll continue to monitor 10 each week that we send and get retested, and I think that's been working out well for us to keep a check on this. To date, we've handed out over 17,200 masks out on the boardwalk and around town, which we will continue to do that at free of charge. Building and License Department continues to perform spot checks to businesses around town for compliance. We have had some issues with signage, especially down on the north end of the beach being removed or vandalized. People are taking signs down, turning them around, throwing them in the dunes and things like that. Public Works is doing the best they can to go back and re-put those in positions each day. Just to let you know, staffing levels, some creeping down a little bit. The lifeguards as well as the police department cadets have each lost 5 officers, lifeguards so far this year, here going back to work or other jobs. And we are starting to see some movement with colleges doing online and starting up a little bit early because they're not having all the classes go at the same time. People come back at the same time. So with that, over the next 2 weeks, the police department will significantly be hit with personnel, but we'll continue to make sure we staff doing daylight hours as much as we can, and with people up on the boardwalk and the other avenues we're supposed to be at. I only bring that up during our meeting here just because we're going to start seeing that earlier this year than we've seen in the past, and we are getting confirmation through these schools how they're starting up some online training.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Sharon. And I heard from a couple of businesses, and I'm sure that you all have as well, that they were appreciative of putting in the meterless Monday. And my hope is that it did get some business coming into town, some of the locals, and my hope is it'll continue to grow as we do this on Mondays throughout the month of August. With that, I'm going to open it up to the commissioners. Commissioner Trzynowski, you had a question.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give a brief update on some of the efforts of Main Street and some of the other organizations in town to help drive business to our downtown businesses. Partnering with Shell Brothers this Friday night, it doesn't show very well, but this Friday night, anyone that comes downtown to shop at our businesses will get a raffle ticket for every $20 they spend downtown. And then those raffles will then be picked with a few different prizes, all of which will add up to about $12,000 in downtown business gift cards. So Shell Brothers is very kindly helping support our downtown businesses by doing this, as well as giving 2 free drink tickets to any of the 3,000 homeowners they have in the area. So we are hoping that this Friday night that will be a very successful program to bring our locals downtown as well. Main Street also is encouraging all of our downtown businesses to apply for the Heartbeat of Main Street grant program, which is a $5,000 to $15,000 grant to businesses to help support them in the recovery, in the second phase of recovery from the pandemic. There's only the grants are $5,000 to $15,000. Any nonprofit or small business downtown can apply for it. There will be 500 total throughout the entire United States. So it is first come, first serve. So we're Main Street's encouraging all of our businesses to apply for it and our local nonprofits. And out of the 500 applications, 50% of those do have to be a minority business, which I believe the Small Business Association defines as owned by a minority, woman, veteran, disabled, or LGBTQ-owned business. So all of that information is on Main Street's website. We've also sent it out to our email lists. And they also, Main Street has the 255-gallon jugs of hand sanitizers for businesses to come fill up. And they're continuing their Christmas in July promotion through the end of this month. So just want to give an update on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gay.
Yeah, I have actually a couple of questions. This has been a big week for people to write to me with feedback on various things. And I heard the chief talk about the signage vandalism, and that's really unfortunate because when I was out last, Wednesday or Thursday, right after they went up, I thought the signs were great. They were in the perfect place. They were on the paths right where they should be. They were small. You couldn't miss them, everything. But within 48 hours or maybe less, some of them, had been strewn about, but in a couple of cases, they're just downright missing. And, it seems that they've been stolen. And I guess I wonder in that case, do we have extras? Are we able to put them back when that happens? We did order, some extras, and probably right now we don't have any left. They were replaced. So we can order extras and install them. It's just gonna continue to happen, unfortunately.
Right, you know, and it's a shame because when I heard the chief say it was happening on the north end, the reports I got were all from the south end. So, and it was only one street, but still, so it's a shame. But that, you know, as they pointed out to me, there's new renters every week. So there are people that are coming here that weren't here last week and didn't see the sign last week. Yeah,
That's correct.
so that's the problem. And then the other question I got, and I thought I had answered it, and then realized that my memory might be faulty, and that is this whole issue about runners on the boardwalk and masks. I know that the policy is with strenuous exercise, you don't have to wear a mask. Running is obviously strenuous exercise. But in some of our discussions, I thought we said, well, the boardwalk didn't count, that whatever you're doing on the boardwalk, you had to wear a mask. But yet that's not the official policy, because even the policeman, I think, told somebody that asked, well, no, if it's strenuous exercise, it's okay. And I just didn't remember where we came out on that. Does anybody else remember?
I thought we all agreed that it was mandatory on the boardwalk regardless.
Yeah.
What I remember. I remember that as well.
That's
Okay.
my memory.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that, because I looked it up and I ended up telling the person what I had seen, you know, officially written down, and yet I wasn't even trusting my own memory, and they came back to me and said that wasn't their memory either. So, you know, I think we need to get it clarified on the information on the site, because it doesn't say that, and it does give this exemption for strenuous exercise. And you know, why somebody would want to run, you know, on the boardwalk when there are a lot of people around is a mystery to me, but they're doing it, and there just isn't enough space there. So somehow we've got to, and also tell the cadets that that's the rule, because they're not telling people that. It's not their fault.
I will reemphasize that you're absolutely correct. However, not to call anyone out, but some city officials at times have given mixed signals to some of my officers out there on the street on the boardwalk, because that's gotten back to me. So I keep trying to correct them, but that's the other thing on consistency, and when we change things weekly at times, and that's okay because it's always evolving, but to get the signs and what things are going, because there's even mixed signals out there that people are coming to the lifeguard and telling them one thing, and we're correcting that. So as long as we're, you know, it's been 2 weeks like this now, so I think we start getting more consistency in with that. But I will put an email out since this meeting is over with, out to the cadets again, and say again, the boardwalk is always has to have a mask, no matter what, biking, walking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's great. I mean, I know we were sort of all over the map with that one. And the third. Oh.
I was going to mention subsection F of the mayor's third modification says that there's no exceptions while on the boardwalk.
It does? Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. There's a section of the city site that doesn't have that. Thank you. I appreciate knowing that. And then, you know, the third thing was, and this is just, I'm sure you hear this every week, you know, some people who have what I consider a front row seat to the boardwalk, condo owners on the north side especially, you know, just are saying that they're just not seeing the compliance. I mean, I have seen it. I know that others have seen a definite increase in compliance. But for some people that are our property owners are sitting there, they're not seeing it. And so they're choosing to leave and to not, come back or not be here this summer, which I think is unfortunate. And I know that everybody's doing the best they can. But I told them I would mention it because, as I said, they have a view that probably none of us have in terms of casually observing it, because they're observing it, all day, every day. And then the last thing was, we had gotten a suggestion submitted yesterday about, other sources of information other than signs, because, the signs are only in certain places and they can get stolen and people aren't necessarily seeing them. And so, and I wonder about the recommendation that was made was putting some sort of stickers on meter places. But in addition to that, I'm wondering, and maybe, Carol can talk about this too, what sort of information goes in the rental packets? Because and I know some information's been given out to business owners to then hand out to people. But it seems like if we're going to, especially with the change of population every week, if we're making sure that all these newcomers have information wherever they happen to be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burns.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Let me just reiterate what Commissioner Gay just said. I also think that the information that we received from Jeff at Radio Rehoboth, to be able to get this information about masks to folks in some of the common places where they are, the meter stations, the coin stations. I think, like Commissioner Gay mentioned, asking Carol what the chamber is able to do is going to be consistent with what the governor talked about today, and that is just trying to get this information continuously out to folks. And I certainly want to thank the police, the city manager and her team for 17,000 plus free masks. I mean, that's incredible. It's hard to even imagine that. It's hard to imagine even that would have to be done, but that is apparently the reality. So I think we really need to be creative and look at additional opportunities to promote this and then to be able to support enforcement of the masks. On a different topic, thinking back to last week when we voted to extend outdoor dining for a prolonged period to be consistent with what the state gave us the opportunity to do. I think we did not mention retail stores being able to continue to place their merchandise outside after the end of this month. And it was, at least for me, and I think for many of us, simply an inadvertent oversight. But I think we need to have that discussion. And I would advocate in supporting our retail establishments in being able to do that. And then a third topic is just an update. The governor gave permission a few days ago for senior centers to be able to open. And so our Cape Henlopen Senior Center downtown does not have a date specific yet, but they are moving ahead with a very specific protocol in terms of complying with the governor's order. Governor's order, among many things, indicates that they can open and operate at only 30% of fire code capacity. And so they're looking at what that means in terms of monitoring numbers, in terms of ensuring masks, having masks available for those that show up without one, taking the forehead temperature of each individual that comes in, of orienting their staff to be able to deal with all of these protocols. Our senior center did just begin on yesterday, Monday, several virtual classes where senior members can on their computers at home participate in classes and so on. Senior Center has also recently received a generous grant through the state in order to purchase new computers that are programmed for the virtual programs, for learning programs, for games, and so on. That'll be set up at the center once it opens within the next couple of weeks. I'll keep you updated on that. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Dick. And, I'm assuming, unless some of the commissioners or any of the commissioners have doubts, that the extension that we provided based on the governor saying for ABCC would be pretty much the same for our outdoor restaurant capacity extension, as well as our retail shops extension. I would think that would be something that would be very simple, and I don't necessarily think that it would be problematic for the city staff to allow that to happen. So I mean, I would make the assumption that, we would just allow the retail businesses that have put in for, their plans and that have had their plans in for the last month or two, to be able to continue that going forward as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. However, we did not mention that, and several of the retailers downtown have brought that to my attention, probably to some of yours, that we need to be clear on stating that.
Would that
So-
be,
So are we in agreement that that is part of last week's agreement, or do we need to make a motion? What is the situation? Maybe Glenn can advise us.
I don't remember the discussion last week, is the problem.
the discussion last week was the extension, we voted to extend the restaurants outside.
Right.
With the governors all the way to March 31st. And so it'd be basically, we have, I think it's 6 or 8 retail shops, that are displaying their wares outside. And what we wanted to do is just do the same thing that we did for the restaurants, was just to allow them to be outside.
Let me look back at the orders and see what we put in the orders so far, just to see if they need to be
Sure.
extended or not. I'll do that while you're talking, sir.
Okay. So Glenn's
It
gonna
was-
look into it.
Okay,
Mayor,
good.
it
Thank you.
was my assumption that we were doing that. And we may not have explicitly said it, but it was my assumption that we were doing it nonetheless.
Mhm.
And I do recall, commissioners, advising, Carol Everhart last week that the city will extend whatever courtesy we have to all the businesses that already are here, already, either serving outdoors or having any retail outside. And we'll continue to accept new applications and continue to extend that. So I believe maybe it was missed, but I do know that I stated that.
And we can,
That was
and I'm gonna, since nobody else has their hand up, I was gonna call on Carol now, to get her comments, but we can, just verify that that's the way she knows it. And maybe she can put out a blast to her, constituents, that includes not only just the restaurants, but the retail shops as well. Carol Everhart, if you'd like to speak, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm glad you brought that up because it was a question and it was my understanding, as the city manager said, that this was extended and if there was new applications, they would look at that. And that's how I've responded. I'd be happy to put that on a blast tomorrow. And I want to ask one thing. The sidewalk sale is usually October 3rd and 4th. So with there already being outside retail and dining, I think we just need to think about that. I have not promoted it. I've held it in bay until there's a proper discussion about it. The businesses see it as a benefit, but in these conditions, I just think it needs further thought. So I just want to put that out there for now so that we can think about that.
Okay,
Okay.
yes.
The Washington list, the DC list, that created a firestorm of media out of WTOP, Fox 5, you name it, about that. My take on it was that the media in that area was not pleased that had happened to Delaware. And they brought up the fact that the metrics, when they looked at our numbers, it seemed as though we shouldn't be on that list. So just so you know, that's where that ended. I haven't heard anything else. The weekend, we did see an uptick. We saw an uptick both in occupancy and a slight uptick in downtown businesses, as I have reported right now. It wasn't major, but there was an uptick. And whether that was, hopefully the Christmas in July promotion encouraged some of that. You mentioned the realtor bags, and I'm more than happy to put whatever information you would like in those realtor bags. If you want us to create that and drop it in, we can do that. You just need to tell us, what you want on that. We're already stuffing them. I will tell you with the downturn in rentals. We would do 9,000 plus realtor bags. I'm going to be surprised. We're half of what we would normally be right now. So if we end the year with 5,000 realtor bags, I will be surprised. We also do the community bags, and it might be nice to put that, whatever the information is in the community bag, because those go to the residents. They're just looking or already moved in here, that type of thing. So that is definitely available. You mentioned the health official enforcement, Mayor, and at the Association of Chamber meeting this morning, we were advised that Jamie Mack with the health official would be at the next association Zoom meeting, and that he was going to provide us with how the system works for that. The question that came up was, do they respond when one person calls and says, I was in a restaurant or a retail store and someone wasn't wearing a mask? Do they respond to that? Or is there a number of complaints that come in before they respond? And then when they do respond, what is the results of that? You know, are they ticketing? What are they enforcing? So it's in discussion for sure. The last thing is, I believe, look here. Yes. We did complete the letter to the governor. We did complete the chart. It will be released tomorrow. And this is I can give you the total number on this, and I can tell you how much of it was downtown. So 1,200 members, we reached 6%. So it was 76 members responded, but we divided it into each location and each category. So the total number, this is the loss of revenue, not profit, the loss of revenue, January 2019 to July 6th, 2019 compared to 2020, same date. That loss is $205,745,277. That's the loss from that small group. The amount of that was downtown was 91,686,306 just in downtown, just that small group. So this is going to be quite devastating as this goes on. I can't imagine how large the number will be when we actually get a higher percentage of responses. And it will be released tomorrow, and I will send it to all of you tomorrow.
Thank you, Carol. That's very helpful. Any questions from any of the commissioners for Carol?
That number, I guess that number is extrapolated, right, Carol? It's not just on the people that responded. It's based on the people who responded, then extrapolating to the whole category. Is that right?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
The number on the losses, the number is extrapolated to represent the entire community, or is it only the losses from the ones that responded?
Only the ones that responded. So you can imagine how large.
Okay. Oh, really? So it is quite. It's only a list. Oh, okay.
This is basically 6% out of 1,200.
I got it. Oh, that's even worse. Okay.
Yes, it's going to be worse. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And Carol, that's across all types of businesses?
Yes, accommodations, attractions, real estate, restaurants, retail, service. And when you get this, it's on one sheet. It's very easy to read. It has it broken into those categories. In each category, the sum, and then it takes that and divides it out into downtown, Route 1, Dewey Beach, and other. This is all in the 19971 zip code.
Great. Thank you very much. That's helpful.
You're welcome.
Let's see. I don't see that much more for our discussion today, unless anybody's got any ideas going forward. Again,
can I just interject and say that on the retail stuff and on the outdoor dining, there's nothing in the city of Rehoboth Beach's current orders that address it. We've pretty much been riding on the governor's modifications. So, I mean, if somebody wanted to make a motion and formalize that we're gonna apply to retail the same that we're applying to dining, that would be fine, just to have it on the record. Or your consensus and what you've already done by indicating that you'd like the city to continue with that's probably enough too, but if somebody feels like it needs to be formalized, feel free to make a motion.
Well, thank you, Solicitor. I guess I go on your advice. But just to be clear, whether it's consensus or a motion, what we're agreeing to is that retail establishments who have had an approved plan can continue through March 31st of 2021 to utilize that outside space for their retail merchandise. And other retailers are able to continue to use up to 3 feet without a specific formal approved plan.
Why don't you then make that a motion?
Okay, so I so move.
Well, what about new applications? I thought I heard earlier that new applications would be accepted if somebody
Oh, okay.
decides now.
Yeah, and that's a good point.
Add that.
Glenn, can we just add that? Are you able to?
There's no second yet. You're the maker of the motion, so go ahead and add it. Okay. So is there, oh, that's your job. Is there a second to that?
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve going along with the open, the order that we put in last week about restaurants being extended, the outside capabilities through and including March 31, 2021. We'd like to also do the same for retail and allow them the opportunity to continue to do that through the same time period. And obviously, if any new applications come in, they would be able to do it through that new time period. And that will extend not only to the retail that have put in applications, but the 3 feet for the retail establishments that have not put in applications because there's no need. Any further discussion? If not, Commissioner Byrne.
Of a study done out of Pennsylvania by a group saying that they're seeing a spread of virus coming up I-95 and approaching the mid-Atlantic area. And they mentioned Rehoboth Beach in the article more than once. And the statement was, because the numbers in Delaware are still low, that we have time to do something, to make sure that we're not, we don't become a hotspot from this travel of people into our area or up from the south from areas that more drastically affected right now. But I'm failing to hear a plan. I'm failing to hear any specific advice. And I'm also really cognizant that, we have our 1 square mile, but things that are happening on Route 1, definitely affect what happens in our town in terms of virus spread, including in businesses on Route 1. And I'm just, we're hearing reports from stores that people aren't wearing masks in supermarkets, that staff don't feel comfortable enforcing it, that large groups of people are coming in together to shop, that they're not, monitoring or restricting numbers of people in stores. And so I think that there are trends that are occurring that aren't in the right direction. And I'm just kind of I'm not hearing a direction or a plan to get things going in the other direction. And it feels like each town is just kind of being left to its own devices. I'm just sort of wondering, Paul, you all are on a call with the governor. I'm not catching his reports. Do you feel that we're getting sufficient support and direction from the governor?
Based on the meetings that I've attended virtually or on the phone, yes. I think he's done a very good job of keeping the numbers low. If you look back on where we were relative in April versus today, we're somewhat similar to the same graph that you see in of New York, in that hit a high point in April. A lot of restrictions have been put on, and now subsequent to that point in time, we are a lot lower. Can we be lower? Yes, he's always striving to get lower. And that's what I was speaking to earlier, that he was speaking to about the schools. They're trying to get to a lower point. So if possible, they may open up the schools. I believe so far, the University of Delaware has decided not to open up in the fall except to virtual. But he's looking at the 1 through 12 or K through 12 for the schools. But I think the numbers that we're seeing here are steady, if not going down. And I think a lot of it comes out to, compliance and wearing masks. And it's a very difficult thing to enforce. I think the communities around the state, I know Rehoboth is trying to enforce it as best possible. Out on the highway, I've not heard anything from the county on that. But I think most of these communities are like Rehoboth. They're trying as much as possible for the compliance. But because we do have people from out of state, and it's a difficult thing if they're coming from someplace where they didn't have to wear a mask. I don't know why there's not a national mask wearing edict, but there's not. And so I think we just have to look at the state for guidance, and I think he's doing a good job with it, what he's trying to do for all of us.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, we're really good with the numbers, but the fact remains that we've been put on a quarantine list by a number of surrounding states. And yet as a state, it doesn't seem like we've launched any kind of new initiative to sort of turn that around. So I just kind of say, and I kind of personally, that our community, or the beach and resort communities, are suffering disproportionately, and that may be not supported in fact, and that we might require or deserve kind of more support, if you will. Don't quite know what that would look like, so I'm just putting that out there. And thank you for keeping on.
Thank you. And again, one of the things the governor has said recently, as well as he's been saying for the last month or so, is he doesn't want to go backwards. And I think that's why he's been so slow to go forwards. And I think it's been a positive thing for us as a community, as well as us as a state. And I think, unfortunately, a number of the other states around the country are having to go backwards. And that's one thing he did not want to do. I know he had to do that with the bars, and I think he jumped on that quickly. And that's why I don't think the bars are going to move to phase 2 anytime soon. But I think he's very cognizant of going slow. And that's why I don't think he wants to jump right out there on the schools as well until he gets back to a lower number that he makes feel comfortable with.
Can I add something to that? I was watching his news conference today, and I mean, it seemed very clear that, his goal is he wants to be healthy and be open. And the common denominator in all that is wearing masks. I mean, he said over and over again, that really that's it. People have to wear it. And that's part of the reason why I brought up, that how do we get the information out? Because I know people don't want to do it. I understand we don't have 100% compliance, but it seems to me that if we're going to keep, there's a message to be put out there over and over and over again, especially for new people coming every week, that's the message, that the masks are what we need to do in order to not go backwards.
And that's what we're trying to do as best as we can. And I think each week I see maybe a little bit more compliance depending on where it is. But again, each week we have a new crowd of people that come in, and every day we have a new crowd of people. So it's the city staff is doing the best they can. And yes, signage is good, getting the word out there, but I don't think there's any place in this country that doesn't realize that wearing a mask is better than not wearing a mask. And it's just, The compliance side is very difficult. I don't know why they're successful in Europe and in Asia, but they're just not successful in the States overall because people feel like their rights are being taken away. And unfortunately, they're not looking at the numbers of people that are dying. With that, anybody else have any things that they'd like to add? Nope, okay. I think unless anybody's got anything else to add, we can adjourn the meeting and plan on having another meeting next week, which would be, I believe, the 4th,
Yeah.
which is Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.